Hi there, welcome to Eddie's Research. Before I start, as usual, this is my previous article about universal basic income. Very useful. I would recommend you probably watching it and definitely reading it because it will happen, definitely. So, in the world of news, there are normally just two sides. There is the MSM, we'll call it. If you actually read my article, you'll see why, because I'll just call it MSM. But that's the mainstream. And then the alternative or conspiracy or whatever you want to call them. There are sometimes other sides, but normally the alternative side hates to think outside its own box, if that makes sense. Basically, both sides need to follow a narrative. Mainstream media needs to follow that it's on the news, etc., so it has to be real. Alternative follows it's mainstream media, it can't be real, and therefore it has only to be this one. If someone in the alternative world says, hey, I don't believe that, I think it's this instead, then the alternative viewpoint is it can't be that. It has to be the same as all the other alternative ideas, otherwise it's not real. Does that make sense? Probably not. Anyway, so the reason I brought this up is that in the alternative news, there's a video doing the rounds stating that the vaccines contain graphene. So here it is. You can watch it to your heart's content. Obviously it's not on YouTube because they block anything, but it's here on brand YouTube. Never heard of Brandon YouTube, but there you go, that's where it is, and you can watch it to your heart's content. It's however long, 22 minutes long. So I have watched it because I wanted to actually understand what this one was talking about. From what I can see on first glance, it seems to be a case of let's join the dots no matter what to get the result we want, like the famous 2 + 2 = 5. So what we'll do is look at the two web pages that she shows, also the Msds, that's the safety data sheet for Pfizer, because that's what she talks about, she doesn't talk about anybody else's, and then finally the patent she mentions, but doesn't actually show it, although I say it's the most important one. But I will look at each separately. What I mean is I will look at each page, get the salient points and ignore the other pages. After I will see if there's anything that joins them up. However, firstly she mentions that ALC 159, when she searches, comes up with Sinapeg as a website. But when I searched, it wasn't even in the first pages or so. Can you buy from other companies? Yes. Yes, you can. Does it state in the Msds that it only comes from this source? No, as that is the safety data sheet. All chemicals have one, all the way down to the good old toilet cleaner you have in your house. Will they state who they buy from? Of course not, it's trade secret and confidentiality. Plus they would have others offering their products. She mentions that it only comes from Sinapeg and it's from China. This then raises the alarm bells in your head. China! But you can buy it from all over, USA, Spain, etc. For example, here are a couple I've stated and where they come from. So we have one here called Medchem Express, ALC 159, it's based in the USA. Here from Biopharm PEG, ALC 159, it's based in the USA. ALC 0159, it's from Showchem, and yes, that's based in China. MPEG, again, where's the 159? It's on the screen somewhere, I can't remember where I found it. But it's the same thing. Where can you buy it from? Where's this place? It is in... well, it's all over the place. And we have this MPEG again. It's the cast number as well. This narrows it down as well if you look at the cast numbers. But you can buy this from this company, and where they base, Spain. And then there is also X Discovery, ALC 159, and that is from China. So yeah. Anyway, back to the topic in hand. First up, the Msds. Now I'll look at the main one direct from the company, and for the completeness, the one from the FDA and the UK. So here we have the Pfizer one. This is the FDA, and this is the UK. Now I'm only bothered about the excipients, as that is all she talks about, so no need to go into the full depth of it all. As you can imagine, it's quite lengthy. An excipient is a substance formulated alongside the active ingredient of a medication, including for the purpose of long-term stabilization, bulking up solid formations that contain potent active ingredients in small amounts. I'll just show you where that is. It's here in Wikipedia. It's easier to show you in Wikipedia because it shows you all this stuff. Where we are, thus often referred to as bulking agents, fillers, or diluents, or to confer a therapeutic enhancement on the active ingredient in the final dosage form, such as the facilitating drug absorption, reducing viscosity, or enhancing solubility. Okay. So back to the first document, which is from the Pfizer. So here it is. It's quite lengthy. Save your life. And you can see here you have the chemical name and all this stuff here, and the AALC159 is down here. And if I just do it like that, so you can see it from the thing. So there's the main thing that she's looking at. Now it has the shortened name, which is PEGA, but that's just abbreviations. It's this ALC159 you actually need. Okay. So the weight there is less than 1%. Obviously, you'll probably say, where's the rest of it? But, you know, they're not going to put it all in there. Also, it's listed under non-hazardous. That could do with the space there, you know. My brain cell kicking in. There's no EC number. Like all the rest of the table. Some of them do, some of them don't. So what does the FDA one say? Here it is. Well, it's not much. It's all about administrating it, but it's actually interesting to read. If you want, it is lengthy. How many? 39 pages. So it shows you images there, images there. There's some images down here. You know, there's interesting stuff to read about it if you are curious about it, because nobody reads this kind of rubbish usually. And the UK one. So here we go. So the excipients are down here somewhere. There, excipients. So it's here. The excipients: sucrose, sodium chloride, potassium chloride, disodium, blah 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 blah, la 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 la. There's the 159. Okay. The primary function is to form a protective hydrophilic layer that sterically stabilizes the LNP, which contributes to the high storage stability and reduces the non-specific binding to the proteins. And novel excipients, there it is. It's a polyethylene glycol lipid conjugate. So that's all it mentions. Can't spot anything about graphene there. So what we'll do is we'll take a look at the item in question, the ALC159, and we'll have a look at good old trusty Wikipedia, which is debatable, to say the least. So here it is at Wikipedia, ALC159. Basically it is what it says it is. It's this PEG lipid conjugate. Goes into all the chemicals there. It's deployed in this, and the active ingredient is there. There's a bit about it all. And what not. And obviously, if you want to know about polyethylene glycol, where's polyethylene glycol? There. It tells you a bit more about it at the top there. It's using excipient. Where is it? It's under medical uses. There it is. Polyethylene lipids using the excipient in most of the Moderna and the Pfizer, encased in a bubble of oily molecules called lipids. There you go. So now we know what ALC159 is. It's a PEG, it's polyethylene glycol, used to encase the messenger RNA in a bubble of oily molecules. It has a rather long name, but can be shortened, as is the ALC0159. It's the important bit. It's not stated in the Pfizer or UK datasheets of having anything else added that is graphene. So, on to the next part, the actual chemical itself. Here we are. This is the website that she talks about, Cinepeg. And there it is. Now, it states it's ALC159, just so there's a match there. And just like Wikipedia, which I've just forgotten to show you, there's the CAS number there, and there's the CAS number there. Okay, so that's the identifying thing to look at. Now, if you watch the video, she says she searches. She says she searches by the CAS number. That's fine. It's a well-known way to recognise chemicals, etc. But how did she come up with that CAS? Well, like I said, it's in the Wikipedia page, but it's not in the Pfizer document. So she may have searched ALC0159 and then found the CAS in the Wikipedia. And yes, if you search the CAS number, you do come across Sinopeg, but it's the third option, and other companies are there, so why was this singled out? Anyway, back to this page. It just had the abbreviation being MPEG. There, MPEG data, DTA. Right? The long name, and that's about it. You know, it tells you the bottle and who the company is, and basically that's about it. An image of it. So, what about the graphene? Well, it's a different page, so let's have a look at that one. Here it is. Graphene in polyethylene glycol. So you think, aha, this is what she found. Yes, it is. It is the exact same website that she picked up. So it tells you there it's the thinnest, strongest and stiffest material, honeycombed, blah 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 blah, electrical conductor. She harps on about that, but 5G. It has these other things here. There's a couple of images. You can read this art's content. Well worth it, because a lot of people just go by, yes, I am being told it's true, therefore it must be, without actually reading it to the website themselves. Some interesting bits I've kind of highlighted in my main article, so I'll kind of highlight them here. It's a dispersed graphene with a desirable electrical conductivity by covalent functionalization with single terminal animated polyethylene glycol monomethyl ether, which is PEG-NH2. Worth noting these words. This is then grafted. This is grafted graphene. It's then reduced by hydrazine hydrate to PEG-RgO and subsequently incorporated into the epoxy resin. And then the final item is this stuff here. Okay, you've got an image there. Very interesting to look at the images. SEM is basically as close as you can get to anything, and if you were to look under your fingernail with this thing or skin, it would look like that. You know, it's that you might have seen a picture of a hair of a fly, and it sees like this. It's amazing technology. So this is the SEM images, like I say. There is this bit here, which doesn't really tell you anything. If you look at it, you probably think, what the hell does all this lot mean? And in summary, it says a graphene oxide with PEG-NH2, epoxy resin, dielectric performance of polymer dielectrics, and polydispersive behavior. The author there tells you the authors and the DOI. And then obviously this bit here. Okay, so some areas. It says about it being dispersed graphene with desirable electric conductivity. Okay, and it was called PEG-NH2. So we can actually look at that in Sinopeg. So PEG-NH2, which I just typed up, it came up with a load of them. But there's loads of different PEG-NH2s. My eyes seem to... Oh, it's because it is moving. My eyes were giving up. But you can see there's different versions of PEG-NH2. The polydispersed means particles of varied sizes in the dispersed phase of a dispersed system. If you want to understand dispersion, then I'll show you Wikipedia again. So here it is, dispersion in chemistry, and you can read about it here, its content again. It's useful, like I say, most people don't. I don't really know much about everything, so I tend to read stuff and then I learn. So that's what it is. Basically, it states a dispersion system in which distributed particles of one material are dispersed in a continuous phase of another material. The two phases may be in the same or different states of matter. So the key word in here is PEG-NH2. Yeah. Now, by the looks of it, after the polydispersed graphene It was electrically conducted with PEG NH2, which then became this PEG GO. Okay. This was then reduced with hydrazine and renamed as PEG RGO. And just so you know, if you search for Cinepeg, you don't find anything for these two. There's nothing there. Next, it talks about epoxy nanocomposites. Now, there's quite a few places that explain what these are. In simple terms, before I show you some of the sites, epoxy is a family of basic components of or cured end products of epoxy resins. There are many uses for epoxies, most notably adhesives. So here you can see epoxy, blah 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 blah, and again it goes into so much depth, but you can read that if you really want to. Nanocomposites are is a multi-phase solid material where one of the phases has 1, 2 or 3 dimensions of less than 100 nanometers, or structures having nanoscale repeat distances between the different phases that make up the material. And there's the same bit I just said a few minutes ago. There's a little image of it. Again, it goes into a bit of depth, and it's very interesting to read about if you are curious about it. So when you realise what both are, you can visualise what both are together. So here's a couple of sites. So we have the overview of the multifunctional epoxy nanocomposites. There, and review on mechanical composites, but it kind of explains what nanocomposites do for things. So useful to look at again if you really want to. So in this context, the Cinepeg article, it appears that you're looking at using graphene in epoxy using nanocomposites. This is actually what it states in its summary, and it's actually used for dielectrics. And again, it goes into so much depth, but you can read that to kind of get your head around it. So, just to look at this, do any of the key wordings match up with anything that is the actual PEG that is in the vaccine? No. Simple terms, nothing states that MPEG DTA, that's the, so this doesn't mention MPEG DTA, which is in the original thing. Let me just get that 1 second. So, as you remember, this is the graphene thing, and this is the original MPEG, and it's called MPEG DTA, and there isn't anything mentions MPEG DTA in this, not even at the beginning, let alone at the end. Like I say, it states PEG, but not MPEG. How can you spot the difference? Well, here you go. Hang on a second. So here is the PEG, and this is the MPEG. Remember that it's got DTPA on the end as well, so or DTA, sorry, on the end, so it's a little bit different anyway. But this is the differences between the two, so they're not the same. Interestingly, it does seem to mention graphene oxide in the summary as the main thing, not the graphene. Why? Well, this is the one that they actually found to be more stable. Now, here's a little bit about the two. Again, you can read this article. There's even a website for graphene. Would you believe it? So there's the two. There's the difference between graphene and graphene oxide. So you can kind of look at that if you want to. So what about the third thing she mentions, the patent? Well, she seems to stumble on that question. If you actually watch it, it's like, and doesn't actually even show a screenshot, even though it's probably something that she needed to post up there. But don't worry, I have found it. So here it is in all its glory. It is a lengthy read, as you can see, and if you clicked on the PDF, it will download in Chinese, so don't bother, just read it here. It shows some insight to something along the lines, but what it doesn't state is that PEG was used at all. It doesn't mention PEG. It mentions graphene in a vaccine as a carrier, but it doesn't mention anywhere in the entire article about PEG. PEG. There. That's it. So it doesn't mention anywhere about using PEG. And it's still pending, so it's not even a current patent. Unfortunately, in the world of science, and probably many other fields as well, people propose all manner of things, but most never actually happen. Also, just go back to the main article from the Cinepeg. We have the DOI. This is what I was going to actually point out last time, but I completely forgot. So if you look this up in Google, it brings you some of the following. So here we are, core shell, structured polyethylene. Where's the vaccine in there? I can't see the word vaccine. Can't see the word vaccine in there. Mechanical and dielectric performances. Mechanical and dielectric performances. There's the DOI. 108341. 108341. There. And there. But I don't see anything that mentions it. So my conclusion of this is it's not related at all. Yes, PEG is using the vaccine as MPEG-DTA. But there's nothing that can state that graphene or graphene oxide is used with MPEG-DTA, or that it's used with the vaccine with PEG at all. But can we find anything about the lady in question? Yes, we can. Here's her LinkedIn profile. So here she is, Karen Kingston. She does actually exist. She is a person. She states she's here it is. She states she's actually worked in Pfizer, which is true, but in sales and marketing. She was also the founder of Varitage, or Vartage. Where is it gone? I found it now. There, Varitage. There's no link at the website, but she does have one in her Twitter account. So I'll post that up in a second. 1 second. So here's a Twitter account. She hasn't actually posted anything up since 2017, I would say. There, maybe 2020. So it's a bit kind of, surely you should post this one up. This video will be up there, surely. And all the articles about the graphene, surely this would be in her Twitter, because her linking is only going to be for people who actually look at LinkedIn. You type it into Twitter, my God, it'll just go viral. Where is it? It's not here. Bit bizarre. Maybe it was removed, I don't know. Anyway, her website is there, Varitage. There it is, Varitage. I think that's how you say it. And one of the companies that she actually works with is Pfizer. And again, it looks like it's just sales and CGI imagery. And if you expand on the LinkedIn one, which is here, it states, where does it say now? She has over 20 years in the industry, experience across sales, marketing, strategic consulting, digital media, and senior management. She was top performing sales representative in New York City for Pfizer and was quickly recruited to the marketing side of the business, where she played an integral role in the relaunch of Viagra. There's nothing to state she was actually working in the actual lab side. So they keep saying she's an analyst. She's not an analyst. Don't get me wrong. You need to know what you're selling, but scientists, I would say, have more knowledge, as that is their area of expertise. In fact, let me have a look at the main article. 1 second. It actually says just employee here, but I do remember other articles about her have called her an analyst. But that's all I'm really going to talk about. I'm not going to go into her life that much. All I will say is don't take anything at face value, no matter what side you're looking at. Just because it's not mainstream media doesn't mean it's right, and vice versa. You know, this is the thing with anything within mainstream. You can look at any, I'll call it mainstream, they're the BBC, ITV, Guardian, you know, all those, the big companies. You can look at something and don't agree with it, fine. You do agree with it, fine. But then maybe you might want to look at it, and obviously we're not going to do it for everything because we'll be there for the rest of our lives just researching. But you could look at something and think, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense at all. It's like if you have, this person was paraded around the streets and then whatever on the news, but then the person's wearing I don't know, let's say a pillowcase over his head. How the hell do we know it's that person? Just because you've told me? But then again, it's the other side. The alternative side will go, well, it's obviously fake because of this. But then you say, well, okay, then prove it. Prove it to me that it can be. You can't prove it? Well, then I don't believe either side. So this is the whole thing with it all. Nobody... With the mainstream, they all focus on... I must say mainstream, I'm talking about like the 90% of the population would look at the news and go, yeah, well, this is true. Which is fine. That's how people are. And say the other 10% or maybe even 5% will go, no, it's bollocks. And then look at the alternative side. So all the 100% of the alternative view will be going on that. But then 1 or 2% then go, oh, it can't be that. I think it's this. Then the others go, that's just weird. Can't be that. It's like, well, why not? Well, could it not just be misdirection? We want to misdirect you and misdirect you again. Could that not be it? But in this case, I don't think, from my conclusion, she's saying that the PEG in the vaccine contains graphene, which then apparently the 5G will be turned on and you'll all die. So that doesn't make sense because I can't link any of them up with graphene at all. And here's a scenario for you. Say, for example, they turn on 5G and everybody that's got this vaccine, either Pfizer, Moderna, or maybe even AZ, because we don't know, for example. Say everyone does have this graphene in them, and they turn on the 5G and we all die. Right? Everybody that's got it all dies. That means that the only people who are going to be left are the conspiracy theorists, and obviously some people who cannot take the vaccine. So say the conspiracy theorists are the only ones that don't take it, right? Because the other ones take maybe a tablet or something like that. That means that the people who are in the power will have lost all the people that will work for them and listen to them at face value. Got rid of all them, and only got left with the conspiracy theorists who won't listen to them at all. Well, that ain't going to go any well, is it? How are you going to be able to make your business grow? It's like, oh well, I'm the best person in the world here, and I want you all to work for me. And they're like, not working for you. You just killed everybody. It's just like, no. If it's anything, it'd be the other way around. Anyway, that's beside the point. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed watching this video. Like I say, please put a comment in the comments box below if you have any feelings about this. You know, maybe you've researched it. I don't know. I know there was a video, and again I haven't seen it. I've just heard about it. A video of some guy in Spain opening a vial and then determining there was graphene in there. But then, as usual, how do we know that the vial is a real vial? Just because you stuck a label on it doesn't mean a damn thing. I can get a vial or something and say, look, here it is. It's just water. But you don't know that because you haven't seen me actually physically opening a box from Pfizer, cracking the seal open or whatever it is that you have, you know, from a truck that was from Pfizer, opening it up, and you watching me in real time. You don't see that. You just see the cut version. Look, here's a truck from Pfizer, for example, and here's a vial I've just opened up from there. How have you managed to get it? So don't believe everything you see on either side. Alternative, non-alternative. Just use your bloody brain cells. If it doesn't seem right, for whatever side, just have a good depth. Have a look. Have a research. Does that person seem right? Who's that person? I've never heard of him before. Who's this? What's this? Within reason. Because like I say, if you were to research everything, you won't end up doing anything. You'd just be constantly researching. Anyway, that's my 2 penneth. Thank you and goodbye.